Hey everyone, this week I'm sharing some of my favourite travel shots from a road trip in Germany. So if you've watched either of my last two videos, you'll probably know that I've been on a recent road trip to Germany. Andrea came along and Otis, and we took our camper van and we had a fantastic time and a great holiday. And as you can imagine, there were some fantastic sights and some great opportunities for photography. So this video is me sharing my favourite shots from that trip. I'm going to show you where we went and my favourite shots from each location. So let's dive in and have a look. So after driving through Belgium, we approached Germany through Aachen, which is kind of the first city you come to when you get onto the German side. And then we drove east with a quick overnight stop near Cologne before continuing the next day all the way across the country to a little town near Dresden, and that was called Hunstein. And from there we had access to a wide area of all kinds of amazing landscape. But one of the main attractions near Hunstein and Dresden is the Bastei Bridge. So the Bastei is a rock formation which is about 200 metres high, and it's located near the River Elbe. And at one point there was a wooden bridge that went towards a castle located near the rock formations, and the wooden bridge connected all of these rock formations together. And then in about 1851 they replaced the wooden bridge with what we see currently, the sandstone bridge which connects those rock formations. And it's really impressive. I've no idea how they managed to build that there, but in this landscape with the mountains in the background, the surrounding trees and these huge rock formations and just the sheer scale of it, it does make a really impressive sight. Although I did find it quite difficult to photograph, just because there are only certain points where you can get a good vantage point and get a shot of it. And that really narrows down your options of how you can compose your scene. I settled on this in the end. I did play around with a few different compositions that were slightly wider. This is around about 28mm. When you go a little bit wider, you do get some more of the rock formations, and there's some really interesting features just on the left. But you end up with the bridge being really small then. So I zoomed in a little bit to 28mm, and yeah, I was kind of happy with this in the end. So we then travelled northeast from Hunstein to a place called Gablenz. There are several Gablenzes in Germany, but this is the one in Saxony. Like I said, just northeast of Dresden and very close to the Polish border. And there is a bridge called the Rakotsbrücke. It's also known as the Devil's Bridge. I made a video on this recently and I'll put a link up top to that if you want to go back and watch it. But it was commissioned in 1860 by the knight of a local town, and it was specifically built so that it had this very pronounced arch, so that when it reflected in the water it would look almost like a perfect circle. And it's known as the Devil's Bridge because people thought it was just so amazing that a bridge like this could actually be held up and without falling down under its own weight, that they thought, well, it must have been built by the devil himself, and that's where it gets the nickname Devil's Bridge. But it does look really impressive, and most people get a shot like this, and obviously I got one as well. You can't go to a place like this without getting the stereotypical tourist shot. But the shot I actually liked best was from the other end of the little lake there, which is this one. And it's just a little bit different from the typical shot you see of the bridge. I got a little bit more of the surrounding area in there, more of the foliage, and I think I just liked the lighting a little bit better. Everything looked a little bit softer, a little bit more hazy. And it was quite tough lighting conditions on the day. Very harsh lighting, it was very hot, very bright, but there was a little bit of cloud in the sky, so that helped. It's never great when you've got a really flat, boring sky. But yeah, it came out alright in the end, I think. So from here we were headed almost directly south down to the Bavarian Forest. But the quickest way to do that, rather than staying in Germany, is to pass through Cheshire. And we drove down all the way around Prague and down back through the border back into Germany to a place called Finsterau. And this is right in the Bavarian Forest National Park. There's amazing scenery everywhere, fantastic walks, and we had really, really hot weather again. On the first morning we were there, you can see here, this is really early in the morning, but it was so warm and it was so bright. And normally that's not great for photography, but in this particular image, it really works, I think. It's just got this really nice glow. The foliage and the canopy of the trees is blocking out enough of the light so that we haven't got any really harsh, blown out highlights. But it has got this atmosphere, and you've got a little bit of light coming through in the background. And I just reduced the clarity and the texture and a little bit of dehaze as well. And that's just created this really nice soft glow to the image, and it still looks really warm. But the weather was very changeable in that area, because that evening we had a terrific thunderstorm with lightning, and all of the electricity went out on the campsite where we were staying. And the next morning I got up quite early. I think we were in the camper van and Otis woke us up around about 5 a.m. And I looked out of the window and there was just fog everywhere. It looked fantastic, and I thought, right, I'm going to have to go get some photos of this. So I headed into the woods just nearby. I didn't really have to walk very far. And there was just some fantastic scenery, amazing fog creating all those layers in the woodland, so really reducing all of that chaos in the background. It's the perfect conditions for woodland photography, and I really like these images. It was much cooler. You can see you've got the blues coming through there in this image rather than the bright yellows and oranges of the previous day. And again, here's another one. This is a different day. We'd gone on a really nice route following some rivers. Like I said, there's so many fantastic walks around this whole area in the Bavarian Forest. But I didn't have my camera with me that day. I didn't have the Z7. I just had my phone with me, the Google Pixel 7 Pro. And so yeah, I captured this one with the smartphone camera. And I really love it. It just goes to show that, you know, the best camera is the one that you've got with you, as the saying goes. And again, just fantastic fog, brilliant conditions. It was a little bit rainy, but that's just added to the atmosphere, and really like the composition of this one with the rock in the bottom right hand corner. Just anchors the shot, and I like the colours because you've got those reds and oranges on the ground juxtaposed against the cooler blues and cyans at the top of the image. So yeah, it's probably not going to work great if I printed this at a large size or something, but for on screen, yeah, phone cameras are great. So back on the road again, we headed south once more. We went through a city called Bastow, which is great if you ever get a chance to go there. We only stopped for a few hours, and then we actually went into Austria, because again it was just the quickest route to pass through a different country. And then we re-entered Germany, just a little bit down from Salzburg, another place that we visited, and there's some really nice architecture and stuff there. But our destination was Berchtesgaden National Park, which is right down here in the corner of Germany, on the border with Austria. And there are just some amazing scenes down there. I made a video there as well. Again, I'll put a link up top to that if you want to go and watch it. But this was one of the images I showed in that video. And I was really trying to capture some kind of mood or atmosphere and tell a little story about this location with this image. So I'm not going to talk too much again about that. You can go back and watch the previous video, but yeah, that's what I was trying to achieve with this one. Here's another one from the national park, and you know, this is just it's just so quintessential, so stereotypical of this area. This is exactly what I had in mind before I got to this area of what I wanted to capture, with these mountains and the houses and the flowers in the meadows in the foreground. The light, again, very harsh, midday, bright, but I think it kind of works for this image. I wouldn't normally leave the greens as saturated as this. I would normally just tone them down, reduce the saturation a bit, and maybe the yellows as well. But for this particular image, I thought it really worked. It's summer, it really just highlights the greenery and how alive it is there in summer. The closest town to where we were staying was Ramsau, and we were just driving through this town and we came across this site and I just had to stop. We just parked at the side of the road, and yeah, you've got this fantastic church with the river going down, the bridge, and the mountains in the background. It's like something from a postcard, and it's just sat right there. So yeah, I had to get a picture of that, even though once again, bright midday light, but there is some cloud in the sky on this one, so that's nice, adds a little bit of texture. And the bright light actually was good for the river, because when you've got that really bright light shining into the water, it really makes it cyan and really clear. And yeah, you really get that colour coming through when you've got that bright daylight shining on it. So yeah, I really love this image. It's one of the highlights for me of the trip. Really was pleased with how that came out. There are quite a few lakes all around Berchtesgaden National Park, and I think the biggest is the Königssee. So this was formed by glaciers moving through, carving out the rocks, and then the water melting and creating this huge deep lake, which is about 190 metres deep, I believe, with big cliffs at either side, up to around about 2,700 metres. And you can only access this, you can only go on it via boat. And I got these shots as we were travelling on the boat. One of the highlights is this church, which is built along the edge of the lake, called St Bartholomew's Church. And yeah, it just stands out against the backdrop of all these mountains. I'm not sure it really works on screen because the church is just so tiny. I think if this was printed out very large, it would be quite impressive, and you can just see how high and how massive those mountains are in comparison to the church, which itself isn't small. And there's nothing clever about this image. You know, there's no clever composition, or the lighting is nothing special, but it's just the sheer scale of it, and just seeing the juxtaposition of the church and the mountains, that's what really makes it for me. And there's quite a nice sky there, some really dramatic clouds, which I quite like. So when the boat reaches the very southern end of the Königssee, you can actually get out there, and then there's a short walk to another lake, which is called the Obersee. And that's where this shot was captured. There's a little hut there, and it's just a fantastic sight, a fantastic composition where you don't really have to work too hard just to get those mountains, the fantastic turquoisey blue waters, and then this hut in the foreground just to add a little bit of interest and foreground subject to the scene. I would have liked to have had the hut just a little bit higher in the scene, in hindsight, because the top of it is lined up just a little bit too much with the horizon, or the top of the waterline there in the distance. I think if I'd have just got a little bit lower, the top of the hut would have just been above the waterline and would have looked a little bit more pleasing, but I'm not going to complain too much because I do really like this shot. And there were lots of people in this shot. It's a very, very popular place, and I'll be completely upfront, I've removed those people using generative fill AI. So you can see here, this is where it looked like before, and this is after with the people removed. So yeah, I mean, I think you'll agree, it looks much better without the people there. So on the return journey, we headed back west across Germany, and we made a little stop in Rottenberg ob der Tauber, which is a fantastically preserved medieval town, which is very, very popular with tourists from all around the world. Very, very busy, but just so many little nooks and crannies and amazing opportunities for photography. It was just starting to get dark in the evening, and it's probably just before golden hour time, but it was a little bit overcast, but it's just softened the light a little bit. And again, just to be completely upfront, I have removed the people using generative fill. No matter what you think of AI, you can't deny it's just done a fantastic job. This is before and this is afterwards, and yeah, it's just seamless. And there's no way I could have got this shot at this time without any people, and it's just impossible. So yeah, these tools, you might think they're cheating, but they can get things done that you just can't do in any other way. And then from there, we continued heading west, stopped again near Cologne before heading back through Belgium, through France, over the Channel and back into the UK. And so that's it for this video. massive thanks for watching, really do appreciate it. If you've liked the video in any way, why not just click down there on the thumbs up, or if you haven't liked the video, why not go ahead and click twice on the thumbs down. If you're new to the channel and you're not yet subscribed and you'd like to do so, you can also click down there on the big red button, or over here on this picture of me. And that way you'll stay up to date with everything I'm doing each and every week. There's a new video every Sunday morning at 10 AM UK time. So I hope you'll join me next week for the next one. But until then, thanks a lot everyone, and bye for now.